All right, we're going to get started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, do our roll call.
I certainly will.
Here.
Lynch.
Here.
Here. Mr. Sill. Here. Mr. Sheridan. Here. Mr. Burses is absent today.
All right. We have one item here, I guess, that we can kind of get taken care of, the extension request for 327 North Newtown Street Road. Do we need that person present for, or to step forward for any of this?
He's heard.
No. So, and this is what, for a 6-month extension? Is that correct? Okay.
It says 1 year.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we have some.
The document says 1 year.
okay.
Can, wait, if I can have you go to the.
I'm looking for 1 year.
Yeah, all right. So I was
From July 22nd.
Okay.
Okay.
So any reasoning?
Yeah, we're just delayed. COVID really slowing everything
Figured,
down.
but figured I would ask. So, is there a motion to approve the extension for 1 year from July 22nd?
I make the motion to approve the request for an extension of 1 year from July 22nd, 2022 to July 22nd, 2023.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, guys.
You got it. All right. Next up is application Z 2022-11, Brodie Vandagna LLC, Jen Brodie, 111 North Main Street, Spring City, PA, 19475, pertaining to the subject property at 4102 West Chester Pike. The applicant is seeking variance relief from sections 172-34B and 172-141 to allow the proposed ADA compliant ramp within the front yard setback. The applicant also requests relief from any other sections of the zoning ordinance that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. Subject premise is located in the R3 zoning district. And who do we have here? That
My name is Mike Murray with the law firm of Donald White. Hey, with me this evening, I have Ronnie Vandagna, the representative, the applicant, as well as Mary McClenahan, the architect who's been working with the applicant on their building permit application.
Okay, before we get started too, just want to make sure that our file is in order here.
Yes, the file is in order. I don't know if Mr. Bradley can put up the exhibits, but there is the proof of publication, the list of property owners that have been notified. Go through that. There's the, and the notice and the proof of publication.
All right, and Sam, are we?
Yes, with respect to the completion of the file as noted by the Township Zoning Officer, we would ask that the documents be entered into the record this evening, labeled as Township Exhibit 1, the applicant's request for relief with all the accompanying documents and exhibits. T2, listing of all the residents who resided within 200 feet of the subject property who have been notified by mail at tonight's hearing. T3, notice of publication placed in the Daily Times on 2 consecutive weeks. And T4, a picture of the posting of the notice for tonight's hearing on the subject property.
All right, and do we have anyone here making public comment or wishes to be a party protestant on this application? All right. Party protestant or public comment?
Just questioning what it is for an immediate.
No, this is just for an ADA compliant ramp.
Yeah, so before there was a question. During that, it was.
Okay, well, we'll allow you the opportunity to ask a question if you want to be a party protestant, then you would have the ability to appeal any decisions made here tonight, so. Okay, so let's get your name and address so we can get you on the record.
If we can have you come up to the podium so that you can do that on the mic, please.
No.
Got it. Thank you. Monica Regner, Regnier. We're at 4104 West Chester Pike, so we're next door.
All right.
See that, right? They are the next, and
Okay.
they participated in the original hearing.
Yep. That's fine. So let's get everyone sworn in.
I swear affirm. I just. Mary McClenahan, MC, capital CL.
You're welcome to sit here.
AGHAN.
Ronnie Vandagna, RONIVANDAGN.
All right.
Ready?
It's all yours.
Well, we appeared, I guess, via Zoom, to the zoning hearing board back in May 20th, 2021, requesting a special exception to change the non-conforming use. The building previously was the Montessori school. People First is a services organization, and if you remember, instead of having 82 students in the school, we're going to have 12 employees. What I'd like to do, instead of going through all who they were, is incorporate the record from the prior hearing, May 20th, 2021. You did have it listed in your exhibits, and instead of going through all that, I would just incorporate that, the transcript from the previous hearing. We received that zoning relief by decision dated May 26, 2021, which was also attached to your agenda. And after that, the applicant acquired the property in September of 2021, and then proceeded to go through the building permit process to occupy the building. Them not understanding the extent of changing use categories required them to do modifications within the building and slightly outside the building to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is requiring them to put ramps both on up the far side away from your house, as well as the front of the building to allow wheelchair accessibility into the building. We're here this evening because effectively the building is on the front along the front setback line. Matter of fact, portions of it extend 44 feet. So we're constrained with the existing building of where we could locate the ADA accessible ramp. And as you see on the exhibit, which was the site plans in the board packet, and that sheet A01 of that plan set shows the location. I don't know if you want to point to it. Mary McClenahan, our architect, can point where that's located.
The setbacks right here, it says 45 feet, and it's the dotted line that runs vertically.
And then the ramp extends from the front of the building just to the front of the parking spaces located in the parking lot. And I guess, have you looked to see if, obviously because the building is right up along the front yard setback, there's no way to construct this within the setback. And you're required to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act on this, is that correct?
That's correct.
And is the ramp that you're proposing the minimum length required to provide the appropriate landings and a depth?
Yes, it's the smallest it can possibly be.
Now, I guess these black and white plans really don't really show the landscaping and such. There is an existing walkway that extends from that front of that building. Is that correct?
Yes, the ramp's located right on top of that wall.
And does the ramp extend any further than the existing walkway
Yes, it extends approximately 3 feet.
from where the existing
Paved.
walkway is today?
Yeah.
And I guess if it was just a flat surface, we wouldn't need the zoning relief. It's because it's a structure being constructed with a slight grade to get into the building is why we need the relief.
Correct,
And we are required by the Americans with Disabilities Act to install this.
correct.
And the second ramp on the side of the building, that fully complies with the ADA requirements,
It does.
and that does not encroach in any of the setbacks.
It does not encroach any of the setbacks.
The only other thing I would go to is Exhibit A52. Who's controlling? Can you get to that? Or the plan sheet A52. So Exhibit A52, is that effectively what we would be looking at for the ramp for this?
Correct, that's it.
And I guess, is it, what are the required slopes and such that we need to provide?
So there's a 6-inch step from the existing concrete sidewalk into the building. And then once you're in the building, there's what used to be, I guess, an old porch. And from there to the first floor is another 6-inch step. So that's 12 inches. And in order to provide an ADA compliant ramp, you can only go 12:1. So for every foot of change, you'd have to go 12 feet in length to have that meet code. And also the American with Disabilities Act requires that at the top of the ramp, at the door, there be a 5-foot by 5-foot landing area so that somebody in a wheelchair could turn around, get out of their way to open the door, etc. And then the ramp starts.
Now, with regard to the Americans, because this is a change of tenancy, any commercial use of this property now would be required to have a ramp, correct?
Correct.
So it isn't specific to this use.
No,
It's because of the change of tenancy and the category from a school use to
correct.
commercial use.
Well, the only thing that wouldn't require it is if it were a residence.
But the structure isn't set up to be a residence, correct? And we satisfied that during the prior hearing. I think you also indicated it's only going to extend 3 feet further than the current sidewalk.
Well, there's another, the one plan shows exactly.
Which one's that?
This one, A1.1, if you can pull that up. Okay, right here. So this shows you the front door, the 5-foot by 5-foot landing that's flat. And then so that's 5 feet, and then the ramp starts, that's another 12 feet, and then scroll up a little bit. No, the other way. And then you have to extend the handrail 1 foot past the end of the ramp. That's the minimal that you can install. So that's 18 feet total.
From the front of the
From
building.
the front door, yeah.
And I think indicated this is the minimum relief necessary to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Correct.
And I guess in your professional opinion, is this any way detrimental to health, safety, and welfare?
No, in fact, it helps.
Because we're complying with the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Correct. And anyone can enter the facility.
And this ramp doesn't extend any further than the first parking spaces, correct? It's all contained.
Yes,
And the landing comes down next to the handicap parking stalls.
correct.
I have no further questions.
Just in time for the microphone.
A mic drop, right?
Yeah. So this, everything we're looking at here, this is right on the West Chester Pike where you're saying you have a 44-foot setback. You're gonna
It's a
be
45-foot.
45.
But the build part of the building
Goes
is
44.
44 feet. Yeah, it's
Okay.
existing non-conforming.
We're gonna be going 18 feet out.
Yes.
And Andy, any concerns from your
No,
side of things from that?
Architecturally, everything else is fine.
Okay,
It was just the zoning matter.
okay,
I said, there's landscaping, you can't see it from this plan, but there's a landscaping and a sidewalk, and this is only actually coming out 3 feet further than the sidewalk that's there today.
Yeah, the landscaping extends to about 3 feet right here, 3 foot, that's 3 foot into the paved area.
so when you come off of the ramp, where does that take you into the parking lot, like right
It
there?
takes you into a flat area and it's in the parking lot,
Okay,
adjacent to the ADA parking stall.
okay,
Actually, what we call the accessible route. Part of the accessible route starts at the parking space and leads internally to the building.
okay.
And all these renovations in these plans, I know we're not looking to approve those, are for the people's first residency of the building?
Correct. Yeah, they've been moving forward. So they took ownership in September and have been working diligently since then to try to get it up and ready to start occupying. They did have another location in Newtown. They've since been displaced, and I think they're traveling back and forth from Spring City at this point. So they are anxious to get in there as quick as possible so they can provide the services to this area.
Okay. Looking at the notice posted, I just saw the for sale sign on the front. I'm curious what that was for.
I think it's for when they bought it.
Just doesn't
Hasn't
take it
come
down.
down. He hasn't taken it down.
Okay. Curious. I'm looking to
Oh,
resell.
really?
Is this great?
Yeah,
I guess if the board is inclined to grant relief, they're ready for Andy to issue the permits as soon as possible.
Yeah, I was just making sure they're not, 'cause I thought that the variance was for a special exception for this specific use and not a change of zoning to commercial, correct? Or-
No, that was addressed in the prior hearing.
Right.
Yeah, so they had an existing non-conforming use. This property happens to be in the R3 residential district.
Correct.
And at the last hearing, you granted them the special exception approval to
Correct.
change.
Yeah,
The
they're going to
difference.
resell it to another commercial, then that's what I was trying to question. Okay.
Clarify, find the grant relief is.
anyone else, any questions from the?
Mr. Regner, present.
So then you're saying it was changed to a commercial use?
Can I please have you turn on your mic? They just changed it from red to green. Thank you.
Yep. So it was not changed to a commercial use, correct? Or it was?
It's not changed from what you heard in the previous application. So
Okay.
it's an office, it's an office for people's first people. They don't remember the conditions where they weren't seeing clients or anything
Right.
there. It's just an office for 12 people to meet, do paperwork, that such for this area of the county.
Okay,
So it's not turning into a commercial retail business or anything like that. Same
Right.
use you heard at the last.
okay. I think that was my concern though, is that if you needed the ramp, were then clients going to be coming to the property? Where before you said
Answer's
they were
no.
not?
It's just, that was, speaking to Jen Brodie, she said they currently do not have any handicap employees, but they are putting it to handicap ramps, just in the future, because they're required by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Because the previous use was, I guess, some form of institutional use
Mhm.
as a school,
Right.
because the use category is changing to, I guess, office, is that
Business office.
business office, they're required to now comply with the Americans with Disabilities.
Okay. And then just my other concern, like I said, I thought the parking was an issue at the last meeting and that there were already like more employees than there were parking spots. So just my concern became if you were eating into the parking lot with a ramp, that was going to leave the employees going to and from, like
No, the site plan.
looking for other parking and that could encroach on our
Now,
visibility.
the site plan is, the plan they had up, which was Plan A01, shows that there are 12 parking spaces. those 12 employees that are
Okay.
going to be there. And it does not appear any of them are on your side of the property. There's,
Yeah, and
Forward.
and on the other side,
and
yeah.
there's some in the back.
The addition of the ramp does not take up an
So it's
additional
just
parking
because
spot.
it's just coming in like parallel to the building where the garden is, correct?
Well, I guess it's
Parallel.
perpendicular. It's perpendicular. It's going into the building. That's,
Yeah, going to come out and isn't going to run along the front of the building? I can't quite see. the
No,
building.
here's the entry door right here. It runs that way towards West Chester
Okay, so
Pike.
straight out. Okay,
Yeah,
I
the
see.
handicap space right next.
Yeah.
And then here's where the current landscaping is. This is as far as extending past the current landscape.
In fact, if you turned it, it would have to be longer, bigger. Because the grade drops off as you go towards, see where it says 45 feet, 5 inches?
Yeah.
The grade falls off, so it would have to be even longer.
Okay,
All good?
that's good. Yeah.
Your public comment.
There was no.
Okay. I make a motion to approve application Z 2022-11.
Second? Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Can we just add
Yep.
that everything still applies from the prior zoning?
Yes, that's fine.
And-
That's
okay.
condition, yep.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
You just leave it on the table there. The next application is D 2022-12 Rockhill Real Estate and RDS Enterprises LLC, portion of the main line, 4027 West Chester Pike, pertaining to the subject property. The applicant is seeking a variance relief to allow signs in excess of section 172-123 to be placed on the subject property. Applicant also requests relief from any other sections of the zoning ordinance that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. Subject premise is located in the C1 zoning district. While they're getting situated, Andy, is the file in order?
The file is in order. Up on the screen at the moment, we have to put the posting, the notice that was sent to Delco Times, the mailing list, and the proof of publication.
All right, Sam?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to this application, and by virtue of the representation by the Township Zoning Officer, I ask that the following exhibits may be made part of the record for tonight's proceeding, and marked as Exhibit T1, the applicant's request for relief with all accompanying documents and exhibits that may be presented this evening. Township Exhibit number 2, the listing of all of the residents who reside within a 200-foot radius of the subject property who have been notified by mail of tonight's meeting. Township Exhibit number 3, notice of publication was placed in the Daily Times on 2 consecutive weeks. And finally, the picture that was viewed as Township Exhibit 4 with regard to the posting of notice of tonight's meeting on the subject property. We ask that all be made part of the record.
All right, and do we have anyone here wishing to make public comment or party protesting on this application? All right, then let's get them sworn in. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Andy.
Do we have to get these? Just a minute, see.
Vincent Mancini. Yes.
Yeah.
This is two witnesses, Mr. Dan Madsen, our professional engineer, Mr. Frank Tucci, who is the director of operations at Porsche.
Yes. Daniel Madsen, Mattson. Thank you.
If it may please the board. Is it on? On, okay. Just an item of housekeeping. There were 2 exhibits added to the list, and I just wanted to hand up. I do have an amended memory stick, if that's essential or needed, but there are just 2 exhibits that were added. One was Exhibit 2B, which is the professional resume of Mr. Madsen, and also Exhibit 13, which is a copy of the zoning map of the township. If I may,
Sure.
Board.
Thank you.
Just enough. Thank you, sir. May it please the board, do you have a preference if I sit or not sit? Thank you. It's been a long day.
And on one foot.
May it please the board, I'm here this evening representing Rockhill 4 Real Estate and also RDS Enterprises LLC. Rock 4, yeah, that's good. We have that up there. Do we have Exhibit 3? That's just a sketch plan. Exhibit 3 basically is a concept plan that was prepared with, I guess, back in 2017 or 18, when we were going through a special exception for zoning use for the new Porsche dealership building. And basically what I'll do tonight is just give an overview of the site, and the witnesses will will give a few greater details regarding it. But the Porsche dealership originally started on the eastern side of this overall parcel. And basically, it's comprised of 3 parcels. That eastern side is 2.7 acres, and it's owned by Rockhill Real Estate LP, which was the first, and that's where the current dealership activity is being conducted. This particular facility will cease doing business for the new cars, and it will probably be used to sell used cars at that point. The middle parcel has since been acquired by Rockhill Real Estate 10, and that's where they have the high perform. I guess the speed shop or high performance shop. And that parcel is comprised of approximately 1.3 acres. And then there's the western parcels, and that's 4.1 acres. It was actually comprised of 5 separate acquisitions through the years, and those 5 deeds were consolidated, and they were ultimately made a single parcel. They were merged as a condition of the subdivision and land development approval for this facility over here, which is basically a building with about 86,000 square feet. It has a basement, a first floor, a basement that basically houses and garages the higher end Porsche vehicles that are sold. And it also has delivery bays and whatnot on that basement level. The first floor has got the showroom and about 24 bay repair facilities for both for incoming, for customer cars that need to be repaired. And on the third floor, there are the offices, the conference rooms, the gym, a cafeteria for the employees. So that between the basement and going up, you have about 86,000 square feet. The width of this building is 190 feet. It's about 2/3 of a football field, I guess. It's quite substantial. And basically what we're here tonight is just about this building here, because they wanted to finish up the building before they came before the board to go for the variances so that they could better analyze things with the wall being up, with the facade being oriented and whatnot. Basically, the subdivision land development plan, I think the conditional use was approved in 2018. The subdivision land development plan was approved in 2019. The building has been constructed and under construction. Since then, COVID has intervened, supply lines have hit, but they're finally about ready to conclude the building. And probably, I'm told, and Mr. Tucci will elaborate, towards the fall of this year. And now we're here before the board for the signage. And basically, we are looking for 3 signs. And if somebody could put up the exhibit 4, I believe, I'm sorry, exhibit 2, exhibit 5, please. That will identify the sign locations. Okay. We have SR number 1, which is, I believe, the wall sign on the buildings. It has about 91.5 square feet, and we'll have photographs and superimpositions of it as we get into the case. SR2, I believe, is the service directional sign, which you basically see when you come up the entrance drive, which is one-way right, and it just directs the people to the service center of the building. And number 3 is a freestanding monument sign, which is about 27.7 square feet per side. But in all frankness to the board, the 2 signs of priority to Porsche is the wall signs, is the wall sign, the main one, and the service sign, which I failed to mention is about 12.9 square feet. And the reason for the signage of this, I know that the ordinance permits a maximum of 50 square feet. It just is very difficult for a building of this size and for all the setbacks that our engineer will get into, as well as the speed of traffic and the distance of lanes and what have you. If signs are too small, they're a safety hazard, and if they're too big, they're just plain ugly or not attractive. But you have to find something in the middle, and the 50 square foot maximum sign ordinance just, again, doesn't work for a building of this size, which again was secured by right. There was no variances. We didn't file anything to to get a bigger building or to violate any setbacks or anything like that. It's just the 50 foot maximum works well with smaller uses, 5 to 10,000 square feet, but I don't think it was intended for something of this magnitude. The total wall signage that we're seeking is, again, 91.5 square feet for the main wall sign, and 12.9 square feet for the service sign, which you can't, the service sign is not visible off-site. The main sign is intended to be visible off-site. The monument sign, as the board may, as the board will dictate or may dictate, we can accommodate on that particular signage if the board deems it necessary to reduce the overall square footage. Again, that would rate, if you put in the monument sign, which you calculate one face, it would be 132.1 square feet. And again, the wall signs total are 104.4 square feet. Going through the exhibit sheets, Exhibit 1 is the deed, and that is for the consolidated western portion of the property. It shows that the 5 lots that aggregated for that parcel were consolidated and merged, and a deed acknowledging that those changes was filed. And that's the deed attached. Exhibit 1, of course, is the application, and I won't go through that. Exhibit 2A is the lease between Rockhill Real Estate 4 and RDS Enterprises. And I would mention that Mr. Robert DeStanislao is the 100% principal owner of the real estate holding entities, which are Rockhill, all the Rockhill entities. And he is a controlling shareholder of I think RDS Enterprises, which is which trades as the main line, portion of the main line. The Exhibit 2B is the resume of Daniel Madsen. Exhibit 3 is the overall sketch plan with a sketch that I originally addressed. Exhibit 4 is the sheet. Exhibit 4 is basically a sheet of plan showing the scope, and it generally describes the 3 types of signs: SG1, which again is the main wall sign, SG2, and SG3, which SG2 is the service sign, and SG3 is the 2-sided monument sign. Exhibits 5 is the sheet that locates the 2 wall signs on the building, and also the monument sign on the western side of the driveway. Exhibit 6 is an elevated rendering of the front view of the building, together with a scaled overlay of the wall signage on the facade in proportion with the building facade. Exhibit 7 basically provides closer details and information of it. SG1 sign, which is the wall sign. Exhibit 8 provides greater details for the SG2 sign, which is the service sign. And Exhibit 9 provides the detailed data for the monument sign. Also attached as exhibits is Exhibit 10, which is a photo showing a full front facade of the entire building. Again, which measures 190 feet in width and approximately 41 feet at the highest corner. Although if you average it around the building, it drops dramatically as you get into the rear because it was graded out of a hill, sort of. The average is 38 feet, which complied with the height of the building under the terms of the ordinance. Exhibit 11 is a photo that shows the facade of the building with a view looking easterly with the wall sign superimposed to scale. And it shows that, it shows what it would look on the actual facade. And Exhibit 12 is a photo showing a view looking westerly of the eastern corner portion of the building it shows a partial view of the wall sign, the main wall sign, and basically indicates you can't see the service sign, from Chester Pike. And Exhibit 13 is a zoning map of Newtown Township. And again, I have two identifying sort of arrows, triangular shape, showing the intersection of Boot Road and Route 3, and all the way to the western portion of the township where it hits where Route 3 hits the Edgemont Township boundary. And with that, I would go to my witnesses, try to finish up as quickly as possible. Frank, you ready? Mr. Tucci, could you please tell this board what your business designation is at the Porsche of the main line?
Director of Operations.
Director, okay. And how long have you been employed, sir?
Since September 2008.
Are you familiar with Mr. DeStanislaw's interest in RDS Enterprises, trading as Porsche of the main line?
Yes.
And you're also familiar with all the Rockhill real estate limited partnerships that owns the real estate, and Mr. Stanislaw's interest in those entities, correct?
Yes.
And you've heard my summary of everything that that relates to those items and others.
I have.
And were those statements accurate?
Yes.
You accept those statements as your testimony?
Yes.
Now, sir, you heard my comments regarding the operation of the dealership, the new car dealership at this location, right? What will the hours of operations be, by the way?
8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Monday through Friday, and Saturday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And what will happen with the old dealership building on the western end of on the eastern end of the complex that I went through?
We will probably sell some used vehicles out of there. There's still service in the back that can be utilized for possibly off brands. Maybe perhaps put another dealership in there in the future, but no drastic changes in the near foreseeable future.
And what other type of dealerships does Mr. DeStanislaw own and operate?
All high-end, low supply. So we have McLaren, Philadelphia, which is also located in West Chester Pike. We have Lamborghini, Philadelphia, which is being built in Devon, Pennsylvania. Maserati of the main line, which is in Devon. Nissan of the main line, which is in Devon. These are all on Lancaster Avenue.
Okay.
Ferrari, Philadelphia as well.
What is the projected opening date of this new facility, of the new dealership building?
We are aiming for sometime in September.
And well, I have no further questions of this witness. If the board has questions, I'd like to reserve most of my time with the engineer.
I'm good so far.
Okay. That's just. Mr. Madsen, you're a civil engineer, correct?
Yes, I am the group manager of site development at T&M Associates.
And basically, what is your educational background?
I have a Bachelor of Civil Engineering from the Catholic University of America, received in 2011.
And you have been an engineer for how long?
Since 2017, so 5 years.
And what are your certifications?
Aside from a professional engineer, I'm a certified floodplain manager, a certified municipal engineer, and I have a FEMA badge as a hazard mitigation specialist.
Can you explain your experience in providing testimony at hearings before zoning hearing boards Board of Supervisors in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. As part of my regular duties at T&M, I routinely testify as an expert in civil engineering for zoning hearing boards, boards of supervisors, and other regulatory bodies.
Have you been previously recognized as an expert in the field of civil engineering and planning?
Yes, in the last few months, I have been recognized as an expert in civil engineering and planning multiple times in the township of Easttown, the city of Philadelphia, as well as West Goshen Township.
Okay. Have you had occasion to design signage for large buildings, commercial buildings?
Yes, signage is a critical element of nearly every commercial development I work on. So I regularly coordinate the zoning compliance and as required, the potential relief related to signage, specifically for automobile dealerships and other, as I mentioned, commercial developments.
What are the factors that you evaluate when you do that?
Above all else, safety is the critically important factor. We want to ensure that signage is easily identifiable and visible to a driver proceeding down the roadway. It should not be distracting, but at the same time, it should be, as I mentioned, able to be identified and read by a driver without necessarily turning their head. Through peripheral vision, you should see the lettering of the logo on a sign and identify what it is safely. Secondarily, the general aesthetic of a sign is crucial, both to the commercial use and to the surrounding community. It should fit the character both of the tenant, the user, as well as matching the character and maintaining the character of the surrounding area community.
In this particular instance, were you directed by the owner to pay particular attention to both items?
Absolutely, yes.
What do you seek to achieve? Well, what do you seek to achieve by your designs?
As I mentioned, the safety of the signage, as well as providing something that was aesthetically, visually appealing, and matching the brand and reputation of Porsche, as well as the character of the surrounding area.
On the issue of safety, is the theory not to take your eyes off the road, but to be able to absorb signage in a secondary fashion?
Correct.
Peripherally,
exactly.
Sir, can I turn your attention to your resume?
Yes, sir.
Give you a whole set here. Is that your professional curriculum vitae?
Yes.
And it lists a number of projects you have worked on?
Right.
Into it, because the list is rather long. But you also worked on the Springfield High School project?
Yes, I was one of the main design engineers from the initial scoping through permitting and construction of that project.
And other major developments from what I could see.
Yes, correct.
If it may please the board, I'd like to submit him as an expert.
No, it's fine.
Did you say
I
Springfield
didn't
High
mean to
School?
get into it
Yes,
that
sir.
much. Sir, have you been involved in the Porsche project since the inception of the efforts to get zoning and development for the project back in 2000s? I think it was probably before 2018.
Correct. We've reviewed this site a number of times from a number of different angles. I was the lead design engineer for the site and civil design, as well as permitting, and the project manager for this project.
And I believe the special exception was approved by this board in 2018 for the project, and land development was approved by the township in 2019.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, did you prepare all exhibits 3 through 12?
Yes, I did.
And you're familiar with exhibit 13, which is the zoning map?
Yes.
Are you also familiar with the township zoning provision for signage?
Yes.
And the application that has been filed this evening?
That's correct.
By way of background, and they're all attached to the exhibit packet, is that correct?
Yes.
Just by way of background, again, let's touch the overall parcel. I think was my summary of the properties comprising the three parcels now that SD or RDS is leasing from one Rockhill or another for the dealership property.
Yes, you accurately represented it.
Okay. This parcel tonight, though, is about 4.1 acres.
Correct.
You know how much frontage that lot has?
That lot has, I believe, around 250 to 300 feet of frontage.
How much?
I'm sorry, about 500 feet of frontage.
500 feet of frontage. And the building itself is about 190 feet wide.
Correct.
And the building has the basement, first floor, and a second floor, correct?
That's correct.
And I summarized somewhat the uses on each floor.
Yes.
The elevation of the building from Route 3, does it sit higher than Route 3?
Yes, the building is constructed somewhat into a hill due to the existing topography and some underlying rock geology. So the western portion of the building is all three floors are exposed, with the lowest floor being about 4 feet higher than.
You mean from the front or all around?
From the front.
Okay.
And the from West Chester Pike, as I mentioned, you can see all three floors when you look through up the driveway. The lowest floor being about 4 feet higher than the average grade of West Chester Pike.
That's the basement floor.
Correct.
Okay.
On the eastern portion of the building, from West Chester Pike, you would only see what we would call the first and second floor, the upper two floors, with the main floor, the showroom, being approximately 17 feet from the average grade of West Chester Pike.
All right. Now the setback of the building from Route 3 relative to West Chester Pike, could you tell me what the distance between the building and the northern part of the right-of-way line?
Yes, the building is situated 50 feet from the right-of-way line, which is the required setback.
That was required by the ordinance.
Correct.
Now, what is the setback from the northern edge of the paved cartway? That is the right-hand lane for westbound traffic.
That distance is 75 feet.
Okay, and from the northern edge of the westbound traffic, the left-hand lane, how far is that?
Correct. It's a two-lane westbound travel, and the furthest lane from the building going westbound is approximately 87 feet from the building.
Now, what is the distance to the center line of West Chester Pike?
110 feet.
Okay. Now, how about from the left and right eastbound lanes, that is heading towards 252? Could you please tell me the setback from the left eastbound lane?
The left eastbound lane is approximately 120 feet from the front of the building.
And how about the right eastbound lane? What's the setback of that one?
132 feet.
All right. Could you please tell me what the speed limit is posted for along this building?
The roadway going both directions in front of the building is 55-mile-an-hour speed limit.
How about from Boot Road towards to where the Route 3 meets with Edgemont, the boundary of Edgemont Township? Is that all 55-mile-an-hour speed limit?
Yes, from where West Chester Pike intersects with Boot Road, westbound crossing our property frontage through the extent of the township, it is 55.
All right, now let's go through the plans for the signage. Could you please turn to Exhibit 4?
Yes.
Now, does that Exhibit 4 basically show a summary of the three types of signs that are being proposed?
Yes, it does.
And you're talking about the wall sign. Could you please give the board the full dimensions and total square footage?
Yes, the wall sign SG1, which reads Porsche in red lettering, is 36 foot, 7 1/4 inches wide from the left edge of the P to the right edge of the E. And it's 2.5 feet tall, which totals 91.5 square feet.
Okay. And how about the service sign at the top of the drive?
Yes, the service sign
We
is,
have the dimensions.
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you have
They're
those?
part of the record.
Okay. Let's turn to exhibit 5 then. That's the general location for each of the signs, correct?
Correct.
All right, and then if we can turn to exhibit 6. That's if we can go to exhibit 6, this one is worthy of this lingering on. That's the front elevation with the main wall sign superimposed, as well as the service wall sign, and it's superimposed to scale, correct?
That is correct.
And that's what that demonstrates.
Correct.
Okay. Is that an excessively large sign, or is it an adequate sign for this amount of facade, given the speed and elevations and all that sort of stuff?
Based my professional opinion would be that this does find the middle ground between safety and appropriate signage, or minimal appropriate signage for a building of this size, so as not to get lost along the frontage of the building.
Now, exhibit 7 is basically specific details for the main wall sign, right?
Correct.
And exhibit 8, again, specific details for the service sign.
That's correct.
And exhibit 9, specific details for the monument sign.
Correct.
Priority wise, which are the ones more important for Porsche?
The main wall sign SG1 is I would say absolutely critical for the business, and the wall sign for service SG2, while not even visible from West Chester Pike because of the grade differential, is a key internal circulation element needed for vehicles driving on the site. So when you get to the top of the hill, you turn left into the garage door for service versus you keep going around to find a parking spot.
Wait.
Sure.
I had the same problem when I was looking at that service sign, because it's really not visible from Route 3, and it's not even visible when you enter the driveway from Route 3. What makes it? How do you know whether you're turning left on that drive or right on that drive?
Cars entering the property, first of all, you have to enter from the westbound lane because of the grass median in the road. You would make a right-hand turn onto the property, and all traffic entering the property, it's a right turn only in. So you circle the building in a counterclockwise fashion. You have to go right, you go up a hill of the driveway as you cross the front of the building. And when you reach the top of the hill, you're presented with parking spaces on your right, parking spaces forward, and the service area to your left. This sign identifies that the service area, the garage doors you can see above the 2 on SG2 is where you would drive your car for service.
Okay. Now, next, let's go through the photos. And there's only 3 of them. Exhibit 10, if we can go there, please. Could you please describe what that is?
Yes, this is a photo taken from the far side, opposite the road of West Chester Pike from the existing dealership. I forget the exact date that was taken within the last month.
Okay. And that shows the full, almost, I guess, as much as you can get, full frontal facade.
Yes.
All right, could we go to exhibit 11, please? Now, is that view, where was that view taken? Is that the same one, or no, it's not, it's closer in?
This is slightly closer to give a little more clarity to the sign. This photo was taken from the median of West Chester Pike, slightly west of the property. Again, at the same date as the prior photo. This has, as mentioned, the main wall sign superimposed, as well as the monument sign SG3. And the service sign is pointed to, however, because of the grade differential, again, it cannot be seen.
You can't see it.
Correct.
Okay. But that's basically how that Porsche main sign will look on that facade.
Yes, it is drawn to scale, accurate font, color, et cetera.
Like computers or just your,
Yes, drawn to scale through, I believe, the Photoshop program.
okay. Could I go to exhibit 12, please? That's looks like almost a head-on view of the eastern curved corner.
Correct.
And you can only see a portion of the main wall sign through that tree there, right?
Correct. This is again the opposite side of West Chester Pike. A car approaching from the east, traveling westbound, would see the entirety of the Porsche. Just wanted to give a straightforward view of that sign. Yes.
Does that have an indication where the service sign is located?
Yes, it does. Again, the service sign, because of the 17-foot grade differential, is hidden by the retaining wall that holds up the driveway.
Okay. And that's about, but that you can see it when you come up that drive and turn, and it's on your left, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Sir, I'm going to ask for your opinion and testimony on the following matters. One, on a case of hardship, given the size, width, height of the new building elevation, the setbacks from the various travel lanes and the right of way, speed posting, is the 50 square foot maximum signage provided by the ordinance sufficient to adequately and safely advertise the Porsche dealership on this property?
No, the 50 square foot maximum would not be appropriate.
And why would that be?
As I mentioned earlier in my testimony, the safety, being able to clearly and quickly identify and read the sign through one's peripheral vision would be questionable under a 50-foot maximum.
Was the hardship in any way inflicted by the developer on himself?
No.
You were involved. You said you were involved with the subdivision and land development and zoning application, right?
Correct.
Was the building approved in the land development by right?
Yes, it was.
No variances were required
Correct.
for size or location.
Correct.
And the signage is merely accessory to a accessory component of a permitted dealership building, right?
Correct.
Setbacks a function of an ordinance on site?
Yes, it is.
Okay. 55 mile an hour is posted by the PennDOT?
Yes.
Elevation was due to topographical features of the site?
Yes, the topographic and topography and geology underlying rock.
Now, also, next question is, in your opinion, is the hardship presented unique for this development?
Yes.
Is there any, scratch that. Would the variances, if granted, interfere with the usage or development of surrounding properties?
No, they would not.
Would the grant of the variance pose any threat to the public health, safety, and welfare?
No, they would enhance the public safety and welfare by virtue of providing adequate signage and appropriate identifiable dimensions.
And this is an important question. Is the variance we're seeking, the size of the signs, do you think that is the minimum variance? Not think, is it your opinion that it's the minimum variance needed to afford relief here?
Yes, this would be the minimum appropriate signage given the dimensions of the building.
Okay. Would the grant of the requested variance alter the character of the business signage in the neighborhood or district in which the Porsche property is located?
No, the signage, specifically SG1, the main wall sign, is very consistent with the character of the surrounding commercial signage.
Well, talk to me about some of the business usages, where they're located. Oh, by the way, this property is, the Porsche property is zone C1 commercial, correct?
Correct.
Now, are there a lot of business properties along Route 3 between Root Road and as you head on west towards Edgemont Township?
I think it's an improvement. You have Hill Cadillac and the GMC, and they have those nasty looking big billboard signs. So commend you for going minimalistic.
But just for the record, can you Can you tell me if those commercial properties on the left-hand side going out towards West Chester, all in the R1 residential zone, do they have signage that comply with the 50 square foot requirement?
No, in the immediate vicinity of our project, as mentioned, there Hill Cadillac, Hill Buick GMC, a CVS Pharmacy, Uno Pizzeria, and little less than a mile westbound, west of our site is a Subaru dealership as well. All of which developments I just mentioned have signage well in excess of the 50 square feet and in excess total square footage larger than we propose as part of this application.
Okay, and again, if necessary, if the board requires it, we're more than willing to back off of the monument sign.
So I like a question about the monument sign.
Yeah.
Is that in the right of way on Route 3?
No.
Okay. And the size of the Porsche sign on the building, is it the same size as the other building, or is it a little larger? Is it similar? Is it going to be, are they going to match basically?
Yes, I don't have the exact dimensions of the existing signage, but it would be very similar, possibly slightly larger due to a slightly larger building frontage.
Right.
Yes.
How big is the current building? Do you recall?
I do not.
Thank you.
Okay.
But if you had that monument sign approved and let's say the state wanted to widen West Chester Pike and it was in the right of way, you would be responsible for that sign, moving it, getting rid of it, the whole thing if we approved it.
Absolutely. I also note that sign is, yes, yes.
And if necessary, we're, like I said, perfectly willing to back off of the monument sign.
Okay.
Perfectly willing. That's, the zoning map again, it's not on the, yeah, so you have a general idea of the distances involved. I have no further questions of this witness, and I would move to admit all of the exhibits that has been presented to date. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Question for Mr. Tucci. Currently, are there issues with people not knowing where to pull in to get to the dealership? Like as they're westbound on West Chester Pike, are they slowing down, sort of blocking that right lane, the right turn signal on, seeing which drive to go through?
For the existing building or for the new?
I guess for the existing building now.
The existing building is one driveway now.
Okay.
So no. And I think it'd be the same because there's only one way in the new building, excuse me, and one way out. So we would remove the Porsche sign from the old building. It'd be moved over, new sign, but.
Okay, so you'd actually move that sign to
That
the.
sign would have to come off the old building.
Right. So
Correct.
my point is, will there be an expeditious exit from westbound on West Chester Pike into the drive so as to not slow or block traffic on West Chester Pike?
I would defer to Dan.
Dan, do we have an exhibit that can demonstrate that?
I can clarify that, yes, and the condition of the right turn into the Porsche dealership for the new building would be slightly improved from the condition of the existing Porsche dealership, because the existing Porsche dealership actually sits higher up as compared to the roadway. It has a rather steep driveway. As part of the PennDOT permitting associated with this project, we need to re-profile the slopes coming into that driveway anyways. But specific to our building, yes, I would consider it an improved traffic pattern as compared to the current dealership.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Another
Madsen,
question.
if I might, you suggested that the premise is safety for your signage, correct?
Correct.
Does the monument sign adversely affect the safety by virtue of its positioning in that area of the driveway and so close to the adjacents of West Chester Pike?
I cannot say in definite terms that it is adverse to the safety. However, it is after the driveway when you're driving westbound. It would likely be better situated east of the driveway. However, due to the grassed slopes, various, the water lines, sewer lines, the landscaping, it was not able to be located there. The site features didn't allow us to. So the location currently proposed was the best possible fit, though.
Not the best possible.
The best feasible given the site, however, yes, not the best. Possible.
But the signs after the driveway, correct?
Correct.
So the sight lines of somebody coming out of the driveway, since West Chester Pike is going westbound, it doesn't block people from seeing traffic coming westbound. Because if it was before it, it would be a problem in the driveway. After it is a better safety feature for the people exiting the driveway, since no one's coming eastbound that way.
That's accurate, yes.
You've heard counsel make a representation that that's not necessarily a priority. Would both of you gentlemen who have testified agree with the statement of counsel?
Yes.
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 Is there any lighting associated with the sign? Is there any intent to put lighting up there or on the ground shining on it?
I'm sorry.
The proposed Porsche sign would be the.
I'm talking about the big Porsche sign.
Yes, that would be backlit, so there wouldn't be internally illuminated. The letters wouldn't be lit up from the inside. However, there would be lighting behind the letters. It would be almost identical to the lighting you see at the Porsche dealership existing today. The sign for the Porsche dealership.
There's nothing from the ground up.
Right, there's nothing shining up.
Correct.
And it'd be so it would limit the lighting to the actual Porsche sign itself as opposed to, like you say, shining up or covering other ground.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And you said this, the current sign is going to come down, the current.
Yes.
That's not part of the sign.
I don't think that's part of this application, but.
No, I said it. That's why I want to confirm it.
The lights probably would not be on during the day, so they come on a timer. I'm not sure what time they come on now. I don't know if it's set to 5 or 7, but they come on typically at night and stay on until the morning. Yes.
Does that generate a soft red glow as opposed to a highly refractory system?
Correct.
And you're not asking for any stanchion signage or anything like that, and in fact, perfectly willing to remove the monument sign if required.
That's correct. Any lighting outside of the backlighting on the sign would be consistent with the previously approved land development plans.
And would it comply with all lighting requirements and the township?
Yes.
I have no further questions again.
Any questions from? I just want to kind of open up. Anybody does have any additional questions? There will also be no time to hear any other applications tonight because of how long this one took. So I'm kidding.
I know when I'm not wanted.
Lawyers bill by the hour. Mrs. Regner, do you have something?
Just in terms of the light beyond the porch sign,
Please come on up to the mic just so we can have the people at home here.
I just wanted to verify the monument sign, that will also be lit up?
The
So that-
Porsche crest would be backlit, the same as the existing one that we have now on the eastbound lot. We have a sign that's most of the time lit.
Okay.
Sometimes it does go out,
Okay,
but that's all it would be.
okay.
No
So is that like,
spotlights.
again, going to be that soft glow kind of thing, or it's going to be
Yes.
like
No,
a
very
lot of
soft.
light pollution at night kind of thing?
Not at all.
Okay, only because my concern would be that you talk about easily identifiable. I would say if everybody was really going 55, everybody knows what they're seeing when they see this, the Porsche and the one. It has less to do with maintaining the character of the neighborhood. I don't know if even across from Cadillac, if there's homes there, or Subaru, are there homes across the street from there?
There is one Subaru
There are homes
down
across from there?
Mill Hollow, yeah.
So I mean, that would be my only concern. So more concerning that people are driving so fast in terms of whether they see the sign. If you're going 55, you're going to be able to see the emblem in the sign.
We made a great deal of effort to keep this signage subdued and simple and tasteful because some of these other dealerships, they have wall signs, pole signs, different types of illumination. This would be kept in a consistent, simple fashion. And as I said, the only truly, important sign for us is the wall sign and the service sign. And if it's the will that we don't want a monument sign near the road, fine with us.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, just a reminder, you can go into executive session if you need to discuss it.
We got it. I actually think we're good, just to try to at least. Use this 1 second, because we can get this wrapped up, I think, if you don't.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve Z 2022-12. The applicant seeking variance relief to allow signs in excess of section 172, 170 placed on the subject property.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Against?
No.
Oh, you didn't give an aye?
I said aye.
Okay. This is the weakest aye ever. Aye. The motion carries. So.
Aye.
5, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll give you the address for my first one.
Next up is application Z 2022-13, Jeffrey and Lindsay King, 27 Pine Street, pertaining to the subject property. The applicant is seeking variance relief from sections 172-34B, subsection 3, for the construction of a residential addition in excess of the building coverage limitation. Applicant also requests relief from any other section of the zoning ordinance that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. Subject premise is located in the R3 zoning district. Mr. and Mrs. King. All right. Do we have, yes, guys. And Andy, is there a file in order for this application?
follows in order. The agenda will show, Mr. Bradley will show on the screen that the property's been properly posted. The mailing list to all the surrounding neighbors, proof of publication, and what would be the last one? I'm sorry, the actual notice itself. So it's all in order, yes.
And same.
Yes. Board, please, based on representation of the township zoning officer, with regard to the completion of the file, I would ask that the following be marked as township exhibits for purposes of tonight's hearing. Township Exhibit 1, the applicant's request for relief with all accompanying documents and exhibits entered this evening. Township Exhibit 2 is a listing of all the residents within a 200-foot radius of the subject property who've been notified by appropriate mail of tonight's hearing. Township Exhibit 3, which is the notice of publication placed in the Delaware County Daily Times 2 consecutive weeks. And finally, Township Exhibit 4, which is the picture we've seen of the posting of the notice of tonight's zoning hearing on the subject property itself.
And do we have anyone here who is a party protestant or wishing to make public comment on this application? Public comment or? Oh, no, that's fine. I just want to get, just so we know if you wish to be a party protestant. If so, we just want to get your name on the record. But public comment? In support, all right, great. Always good to see. And you're welcome to move forward this way. If you do have anything to say, you can always use this microphone. So, all right.
Welcome back.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to hand these out if we may approach. So we got signatures from our neighbors again. So what occurred is we were here in October. Little background. So I've lived in Newtown Heights section pretty much my whole life for 34 years. We lived at 27 Pine Street since 2009. And we're outgrowing the house with our growing family, and we want to put an addition on, or we're working to put an addition on. And we came in October for a setback, a special exception. We did not, the design does not go past the existing front of the existing house. But unfortunately, what occurred is it was a misunderstanding on our part. We only included, for the building percentage, we only included the main building because it's a livable space with certificate of occupancy. We did not at that time think that the detached garage and the existing shed counted towards that number. I talked with Andy and was corrected on that. So here we are today. Unfortunately, that didn't come up in discussion last time. Otherwise, we wouldn't be back again. We are below our impervious coverage still of the 40%, and we are doing a full complex water management plan. Chester Valley Engineering is working on that for us. So with that, we're asking for special relief from, I forget this section, 172-34B, section 3. I believe section 5 was the setback. Section 3 is the 20% building coverage. And, the exact number is 23.86%. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
I get, obviously, construction has not begun on this yet. So are we trying to find ways to reduce that, or as?
No, unfortunately, after the October meeting, we moved full force forward. We actually discovered this when we were getting ready to submit for permit. So we actually have all the drawings of the water management plan completed. So it would be costly to go back and redo things. Additionally, I mean, the size of the addition, while sizable, meets the needs of our family. That's what we had come up with in our design with working with the architect.
And you have the garage and shed, you said too, and I guess eliminating the shed's not going to be enough to.
Correct. Both would have to go to meet the requirement. The shed is actually located underneath a deck structure. If you're familiar, we're the house like kind of right behind the park. So you can't actually even see the shed from anywhere really because it's under the deck, and it's kind of it's existing. It's kind of built into the deck structure. As far as the detached garage, I mean, that we will retain or want to retain because my hobby is automotive, and we have 7 vehicles registered. So we will have a basement garage in the new addition, but because of the headroom, that'll just be for storing the vehicles. There won't be a way to work on it, jack up a car, that kind of thing.
And this is just a hobby, I guess, that you're saying you do?
That's correct.
Okay. And I mean,
So you're under the impervious, right?
That's correct. We're doing all of the, we're in a complex water management
Yeah, the water
plan,
management plan.
and we are under the 40%. It's just the 20% building coverage number requirement.
Andy, what's your take on, I'm always curious to hear, I know we're 3% over, but what's your?
Well, I mean, I think this came to light as they were developing that stormwater management plan. I know I spoke to Mr. King as well as his design engineer. And we had several conversations about what qualified as building coverage. So I don't know that there was any kind of conversation that said, well, can you reduce it in any way? So I mean, that always is an option. But because I think the project had already been pretty much in design for quite some time, I think the approach was to come here and ask you for that relief without making any significant modification to what was currently on site.
As part of
Or
the
being
original
proposed.
application, was there a calculation done on the building coverage?
Yes, and I could provide you a copy from the
So
file.
the application was incorrect.
We have not yet, I don't believe.
On my exhibit, I showed, so if we look at, we can zoom into the current total building area on the bottom right. So on the one that I brought, I did show the existing garage and existing shed under impervious because I knew that they counted towards that. So the number is still close to what it is, 39 point whatever percent. But under the calculation where I showed the building area, I only showed the 1014 because I thought it was only livable space that counted towards that building area. Because outbuildings usually follow a different section of the code. But after talking to Andy during the water management phase, this was about, I made it just under the deadline to get in for this meeting about a month ago, is when we found that I was over or were. So, and I
So
mean,
the original plan that was presented to this board with the original application was, there was a miscalculation. It was proper, it was all noted, but there was a miscalculation.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
Like, is
that's
on
all.
us to not-
It was just a miscalculation on that building coverage. Because had that been correct, we would have identified it. They would have simply come and asked you for all the relief that was necessary at the original hearing. However, we just identified the setback because of that miscalculation.
if you want, I have copies from the previous meeting. I could show them to you. or
Can we
hand
just
them out.
enter the previous testimony into the record, or is it already in there?
Yeah, it was from
We have the.
October of 2021. And the board can adopt that testimony as part of the evidence tonight.
If you want, I could just bring it so you can see it.
Yeah, that's his old driveway. Yeah.
So as you can see there, it was just, we included them under impervious because obviously they're impervious services, structures and surfaces. So we knew they counted towards that number. It was a misunderstanding of what, on our part, of what counted towards the existing. And when we came, it didn't come up in the discussion during our last hearing. Otherwise, we would have probably asked for both during that meeting.
And in terms of getting to the 20%, that would eliminate your garage altogether?
We would have to get rid of both the garage and the shed to get under the 20% number.
At 19.9.
And right now, I mean, other than the hobby, I mean, we're not doing construction in that back corner area and don't have any plans to do demo work, I mean, that would be added cost.
There's no other issues, it looks like, in terms of setbacks or anything like that.
No, well, there's the front one that we got previous.
That was done, right.
And with that too, I would ask that I guess, be rolled into this letter or extended along with this, if this is approved.
Who's the neighbor on the side where you're kicking the house out?
That is Joe and Lisa Tar.
Did they sign this?
They did.
Okay.
Have you started construction yet?
No, we have not, but we have finalized stamped plans.
Mr. Lynch, I think that was part of the I don't believe that they've submitted for the building permit application as of yet.
Okay.
So you have the building project, the design of the structure was already underway after the last hearing. And then you have the stormwater component that was coming in, and that's where the problem was realized. So you have the design all done on the building, and now you have this site problem.
And these letters are from all of your neighbors? Are there some that did not sign this?
No. So there's one neighbor that they're in a rental property, so we weren't sure how that worked.
Okay.
But other than that, that's pretty much everybody on Pine Street within the, the area of our house. And we have other neighbors that came in support, 3 neighbors.
Yep. These are all recent dates. This is a new letter. This isn't the same one.
That's correct. That's a new letter. We had to go explain the situation. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
$800 mistake, right?
That is true.
I make a motion to approve application Z 2022-13, 27 Pine Street.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And just a point of clarification, does that also extend the previous letter from
Yes,
October?
that order is intact and it'll be, the conditions will be incorporated into
The new
this
letter.
decision.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
You're back here again, you're denied. Don't come back.
As clear as you could possibly be.
I want neighbors like you. I want neighbors like you.
Agreed. That's right.
All right. So next up is application Z 2022-14 for Talking. Melinda Kotler, Boiron, Camp 4 and 6 Campus Boulevard, Newtown Square, PA, pertaining to the subject property. The applicant is seeking variance relief from section 172-123 to allow for the replacement of current signage and to add additional building signage. The applicant also requests relief from any other section of the zoning ordinance that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. Subject premise is located in the SU-1 zoning district. And Andy, file in order?
The file's in order. The property's been posted. There's the mailing notice. The actual mailing list to the surrounding property owners and the proof of publication.
Mr. Chairman, if you please, based on the representation of the Township Zoning Officer, I ask that the record be incorporated with the following exhibits and moved into evidence on behalf of the Township. Township Exhibit number 1 is the applicant's request for relief with all accompanying documents and exhibits that will be presented as part of the presentation this evening. Township Exhibit number 2 is a listing of all the residents who reside within 200 feet of the subject property who have been notified by mail of tonight's hearing. Township Exhibit 3 is the notice published in the Daily Times 2 consecutive weeks noticing tonight's hearing. And Township Exhibit number 4 is a picture of the posting of the notice of tonight's hearing on the subject property itself. They be made part of the record.
All right, and do we have anyone here who will be making public comment on this application or wishes to be a party protestant? No? All right, and do we have any witnesses to be sworn in here? I don't know if it's through the mic, but is it green? The light? Where's this one at? Shouldn't even do that.
How about this? Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, 3 witnesses to my left. First, I guess I should say good evening. My name is Julie Bernstein. I'm an associate at Kaplan Stewart, and we represent the applicants in tonight's proceedings. Talk Inc., which at the time of the application was doing business as Talk Institute and School, but now goes by the DBA of Talk School, and Boiron Inc. My 3 witnesses are Jeff Carson to my left, Fabrice Figlioni, and Melinda Kotler. So if you want to swear them in. Thank you.
F. Carson, Carson.
Oh, Fabrice Figlioni.
Melinda Kotler. Kotler, Kotler.
So the property that's the subject of tonight's application is actually comprised of integrated properties located at 4 Campus Boulevard and 6 Campus Boulevard. These properties have separate owners, but are improved to function as one lot, and the combined acreage is approximately 5.49 acres. It's situated in Newtown Square corporate campus, and it's in the SU1 special use district. There are no site improvements associated with tonight's application. Instead, the applicants are proposing to replace an existing ground sign located at the primary access point to the property off of Campus Boulevard, and to add additional building signage to the buildings located at 4 and 6 Campus Boulevard. The proposed signage is designed to improve the overall visibility, identification, and accessibility of the property, better direct both pedestrian and vehicular traffic on and through the property, and to modernize and improve the existing signage and overall appearance of the property. In order to implement this proposed signage, we're here seeking variance relief from the zoning ordinance. I just handed out exhibit packets, which we would like to submit as exhibits applicant 1 through applicant 3. Applicant A1 is a copy of the zoning hearing board application that was submitted to the township in this matter. This includes a copy of the redacted deed for the property located at 6 Campus Boulevard and a copy of the redacted deed to the property at 4 Campus Boulevard, which we are submitting as proof of my client's standing to proceed with this application. I flagged these for you guys, the little, I think they're purple flags, to make it easier for you to find them. And unless you have any additional questions for me, I'm going to start with Jeff to my left. Your name, which you already have done, and your business address for the record.
Yes, Jeff Carson, City Sign Service. We're located in Horsham, Pennsylvania, at 424 Carradine Drive.
I have marked as exhibit applicant 2, Jeff's CV. And can you briefly describe for your educational and professional background?
Went to Versailles College and I graduated studying. My brother John and I have owned and operated City Sign for 35 years, always in Horsham, Pennsylvania. We employ 35 people. We design, fabricate, install, and then we maintain signs for company friendly.
I would like to offer Jeff as an expert in signage. What is your role with respect to the project that is the subject of this evening's application?
I was contacted by Talk School a number of years ago when they first occupied the building to design a signage program for the exterior of the building.
And as a result, are you familiar with this integrated property?
Very much so.
And are you familiar in general with the surrounding properties as well?
Yes, so we've done some work for a couple of the other businesses that are within the corporate park.
Can you confirm that the zoning district here is the SU1 special use district?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce as Exhibit A3 a set of 8 sheets that's in your packet. This is also, I think, primarily Exhibit C to our initial application plus one additional area. The first page of this 8-page set is an aerial. Can you generally walk us through the existing conditions?
Yes, the aerial, which is basically a whole Newtown Square corporate campus. We've identified the buildings 6 and 4 located on it. It's accessed off of Campus Boulevard, which stacked.
This is located in a larger corporate campus, right?
Yes, it is.
And the land is located across Bishop Hollow Road from some residential district, correct?
That's correct. There is no access point off Bishop Hollow Road to the property. Behind the property is the troop field and residential complex.
Is there a landscaping buffer between this property and the residential? And now I'm going to refer you to sheet 2 of Exhibit A3, which includes an annotated version of the site plan for the property that was initially prepared for applicants by Site Engineering Concepts LLC. And referring to this exhibit, have you described the existing conditions of the property, being sure to identify for the board which building is 4 Campus Boulevard and which building is 6 Campus Boulevard?
Yes, so when we added the additional information to layer the original plan, we tried to identify for you what the existing signage was for the property, what was proposed. But what Julie's asking me to identify for you is that there is one main entry port into the property off Campus Boulevard. It's the driveway where the number 1's visible. That's the original drive to the property. It gives access to both the front building, which is this 6 Campus Boulevard. It would receive the signage that's identified as numbers 2 and 3. The back buildings, and I'll say plural because there's 2 of them, breezeway entry portal into them. That's 4 Campus Boulevard, and signs 6, 4, and 5 would be located there. There is an egress curb cut that was added into the property when it came in before you for the land development, and that is an egress solely, and it's primarily for the school. It allows for traffic flow for the parents coming in to drop off, pick up, etc. The children at the school.
Just to be clear, the front building that's number 6 is the Talk School. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And this use was previously approved by the Township Board of Supervisors on March 25th, 2019 as an educational facility for children with autism and speech and language disorders, correct?
Correct.
And then the back building is currently occupied by Boiron and houses corporate headquarters for that business. Is that correct?
That is correct also.
Can you describe the traffic pattern on site and how visitors navigate to the Talk School or Boiron headquarters?
So again, there's just the one driveway in. It's the original driveway. It's just off the west end of Building 6. When you come into the property, there's a small monument sign there, but there's no other identification. property as a whole until you get to the back of the building before where Boiron has an existing sign on the building. Those two signs are the only signs. But, and that driveway is the only way in, regardless of whether you're going to Talk School or if you're going to Boiron.
And referring to sheet 3 of exhibit A3, does this show on the right a photograph of the existing signage that's at the entrance?
It does.
And the last page of this set, which is numbered 8 at the bottom, is that the existing signage on the Boiron building?
It is, that's correct also.
And how large is that signage on the back building?
The back building is roughly 41 square feet.
And the front entrance signage, that monument signage, how large is that right now?
It's 24 square feet.
And is it correct, there is no signage anywhere for the Talk School building currently?
There's no other signage on the lot, and there is no signage on the Talk School building at 4 Campus Boulevard.
And the Talk School would be the first building you see when you enter the premises, which has no signage, correct?
That's correct.
And so as you enter the site after passing the existing monument sign, are there any visible signs that would indicate where you should be going?
No, there's no signs and there's no identification of which building's which.
And so if you're unfamiliar with this property, there's currently no obvious way to figure out which building you should be heading towards. Is that correct?
That's correct also.
Okay. So sheets numbered 2 through 8 in this exhibit. So exhibit A3 show the plan set, including the details for the proposed signage for the property that we're seeking relief from tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So referring back to sheet 2 of exhibit A3. So this is the plan set that has added numbers on it. Can you walk the board through and explain what the proposed signage is?
Yes, I can. Simply, the identifiers that are yellow are the existing signage. So Julie was good enough to give you an identification or introduce you to the 2 signs that exist. There's an existing monument, non-illuminated, 24 square feet. It's out of the right of way. It has a little bit of height to it in that it's probably about 6 feet tall. It basically has some limited identification to both the 6 and the 4 buildings just by identifying the address at the top. Boiron's name's on it. There isn't anything else on it. The plan would be to remove that sign and put in a much smaller sign. It'll only be 14 square feet. It will only sit 3 feet off the ground. It will not impact visibility with any site triangle issues for cars that would be leaving the property, and from that egress, it would be non-illuminated also. It would allow for identification for both the 4 and the 6 buildings, and it would allow for identification for Talk School and for Boiron. Signs 2 and 3 are on the building for Talk School. Sign 2 is a set of what are called flat cutout letters, non-illuminated. They would be 22.5 square feet. They would be pin mounted flush to the wall. They would be effectively over the entrance into Talk School. Sign 3 is an address identifier. It's number 6. It would be a die cut vinyl graphic that would be applied to the transom over the front door. At the size that it's portrayed, it would have excellent visibility out to the street for life safety purposes. And would offer good contrast to the glass, being that it's white, and it would be 24 inches tall. Signs 5 and 6, signs 4 and 5 would be Boiron specific, very similar to Talk School. They would be a non-illuminated panel over the combined entry portal into the 2 buildings that are joined by this breezeway, or enclosed breezeway, and the signs would basically just say "Welcome to Boiron" over the doorway, and then there would be a number 4 again over the doorway, which would help to identify that as the entry portal. And again, for life safety purposes, it would identify 4 Campus Boulevard. And last piece is again the existing sign that's identified as number 6, and that is currently on the, I guess you would call that the southwest corner of the building, facing the backside of 4 Campus Boulevard, specific to Boiron.
And I see that most people were kind of breezing through, but just to be clear, there are further details of the monument sign on sheet 3 of exhibit A3, correct?
Yes.
And then on sheets 4 and 5, they show the proposed talk school signage at the entrance, correct?
Yes, and they're all scaled. They show the correct dimensions and they are portrayed scaled fashion on the building exactly.
And then on pages 6 and 7 of exhibit A3, that shows the details of what the Boiron signage would be at the entrance, correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and so we are here tonight seeking zoning relief in order to erect these signs because the proposed signage does not meet all of the sign regulations contained in the township zoning ordinance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are signs permitted in the SU1 district?
Yes.
Is it true that there also is a section in the township ordinance directing numbers assigned to buildings to be affixed to, painted on, or carved upon buildings or upon a permanent standard base or support between the building and the street?
Yes.
And what are the applicable regulations for signs in the SU1 district?
Under section of code 172-123, A1, 2, and 7 respectively. A1 tells the reader that you're allowed to have 2 square feet of signage for every linear foot of building frontage, not to exceed 25 square feet. Realistic.
Linear feet.
Linear
Is that
feet.
correct?
25, yeah, it says linear feet, but I think they mean 25 square. The way that's written, but regardless. Section 2 says the maximum area of the combined signage on a property cannot exceed 50 square feet.
And then there is another section or subsection 7, which provides that permanent directional signs not exceeding 2 square feet in area, nor with a total height extending more than 2 feet above grade shall be permitted for information needs of the users of the property. Did you originally view the proposed wall signs as being directional signs in this case?
In the case of the address numerals, yes, because we were trying to, from a life safety standpoint, identify which building was which and try and get it in the best position so that it was easily recognizable.
So I would like to just verbally amend. We initially had asked for relief from subsection 1 and 2. So 172-123.A1 and 172-123A2. But to the extent you guys feel that the numbers on the buildings are directional signs, we would also ask for relief from 172-123A7, and we'll discuss that a little bit. So it's correct that these signs don't meet the requirements.
They do not, unfortunately.
Is this because the maximum sign area for a single premises is limited to 50 square feet?
It is, yes.
And
quantity of signs.
And what's the total signage that we are proposing tonight?
We're looking for a cumulative total for both buildings of 87.5 square feet.
And then with regards to those building numbers, those would not comply with the code if they're viewed as directional signs because they are above 2 feet above grade, correct?
That, yes. And again, the square footage in theory too.
And are you familiar with the zoning ordinance and how to measure signs?
Yes,
And did you follow those guidelines when you determined the total proposed signage area?
I did, or we did, yes.
Can you just let the board know how much or what's the total square footage of the existing signage?
The existing signage is a monument at 24 square feet. That's out on Campus Boulevard. And then there is the Boiron sign that's on the back of the building for Campus Boulevard, excuse me, and that's at 41 square. We're basically taking the smallest rectangle around the copy area, which is what just about every municipality uses in calculating exposures.
And so the overall increase in total sign area on the property for this proposed signage plan is about 22.5 square feet. Is that correct?
For talk school on 6th Campus Boulevard, it is, yes.
So, and the two addresses, if they were separated into two separate lots, would the proposed signage comply with the regulations?
It would. Interestingly enough, if you took the signage specific to 4, which would be the address and the 2 wall signs, they would be just under 50 square feet. If you took the signage associated with 6 Campus Boulevard, which would be talk school, they would have somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe about 24, 25 square feet. So both entities would have less than 50 square feet.
And then in addition to that, there's the 14 square foot ground sign in front.
Yes, that's correct.
So if you assumed that the ground sign, which is 14 square feet, was combined with the talk school wall sign, 22.5 square feet, plus the new address on that school, the total signage for that front area would only be 38.5 square feet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Which is still under the 50 square footage maximum.
Yes.
In your opinion, do the sign regulations related to signage in the SU1 district allow for the property comprised of 4 and 6 Campus Boulevard to have adequate signage?
Not when you consider that there isn't any other property that's within the Newtown Square corporate campus that has 2 separate buildings on its property and operates, separate entities out of those 2 separate buildings. No.
Do the limitations make it difficult to navigate this configuration of the property?
Yes, it does.
And does the size of the property contribute to this issue?
It does when you consider that it enables you to have 2 separate buildings with 2 separate operators. Or entities, tenants.
And are there any unique physical conditions of the property that contribute to this and necessitate the required relief?
It does, again, because you have multiple buildings. One building or 3 is located in front of the other building. There's very little access to the property as a whole other than the one driveway. There's very mature landscaping on the property. Again, because you have 2 different entities that are occupying buildings.
Do you know how far the front building is set back from the front road?
I think it's about 103 feet.
Does this contribute to the difficulty in viewing signs from the road?
It does to a degree. I think that the design for what we portrayed has made the signage adequate from a visibility standpoint, but the distance, the landscaping, the maturity on the property, it does make it a little bit more difficult to even be able to see talk school. Boiron, you can't see it all. That's why there has to be some form of better monument exposure for that.
And in your professional opinion, are the variances that we have requested the minimum necessary to grant relief?
I believe they are, yes.
You mentioned that the signage is not illuminated, correct?
That is correct.
And the signage is large enough, though, to be safely visible to people who are driving around this property, correct?
It is. And placed in a good enough, in the proper location for maximum visibility.
In your professional opinion, will the requested variances for the proposed signage alter the essential character of this neighborhood?
No, it's very much consistent with the other entities that are within the park.
In your professional opinion, will the requested variances alter the essential character of the zoning district?
They will not. You won't be able to see them unless you're really on Campus Boulevard.
Is it correct that the condo association for Newtown Square corporate campus already approved the proposed signage plan?
Yes.
And in your professional opinion, will the requested variances for the proposed signage be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or impair the use or development of any of the adjacent parcels?
Not at all. They can only add from the standpoint that we're enabling visibility where there is none.
Does the board have any additional questions for Mr. Carson?
The Campus Boulevard sign, you're not altering the trees or any shrubbery out there. It's going to be kind of standard where that current sign is, correct?
That is correct. It'll be much lower to the ground, probably half the height.
And that sign is pretty consistent to the rest of the signs in that.
It is. That's a great question. A lot of the signs that are located throughout there are small monuments. They probably are about 4 feet tall.
Right.
They're all at the same portal, coming into the driveways. But yes, that's correct.
The current sign is the one that's out of place, correct?
It's old. It's beat up. It doesn't lend itself to really be able to do much to it. in the way of refurbishing it.
Right.
It's a lot bigger than typically everything else in the park, and it doesn't really do anything to complement to the, to the buildings. All the buildings look exactly the same between 4 and 6, but the sign does not really complement it. I'm not sure why it was put there the way it is, but
It's there.
It's there. That's the right point.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I will move on to my next witness. I can ask her questions from here. We have microphones. Can you state your name and business address for the record?
Melinda Kotler, 6 Campus Boulevard, Newtown Square.
And what is your current position?
I'm a board member, founder, and executive director of Talk School.
And can you briefly describe what Talk School is for the board?
Yes. Talk School is a school for children with severe speech and language disorders, including those on the autism spectrum. We provide a full-day therapeutic and academic program. Our children receive intensive speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, and a full academic curriculum woven throughout the day. We use a curriculum called the association method to teach them to read, write, and speak. And the whole idea is really to provide the intensity of services that they need to develop their speech and language. We are the only school of its kind.
And is Talk Inc. the owner of the property located at 6 Campus Boulevard?
Yes.
And this is reflected in the deed that was submitted with the zoning hearing board application that's marked by the first flag at Exhibit A1, correct?
Yes.
And has the lack of signage at this school been a problem?
It has been a problem in terms of people being able to locate us. So they get to the property. We have parents of children with special needs who are excited about coming to see the school, the potential for programming for their children. There's also a lot of anxiety involved with that. And then they get to the property and they can't identify which building is ours. So more frequently than not, they wind up in Boiron's parking lot and they call us. So it just increases their stress. We've also had difficulty with emergency services. We've had children with several emergencies and we've called the ambulance, but I immediately run out front to flag them in because they can't identify the building. So those are 2 big concerns for us.
Are all of these signs necessary for Talk School's continued use of the property?
They are for prospective parents, for visitors coming to the school. It will help to have Boiron signage because if they do get to Boiron, they'll know they're in the wrong place and be able to come back up front to find us. And in terms of the emergencies, it's very important.
Does the board have any additional questions? If not, I'm going to call Fabrice as my next witness. Can you state your name and business address for the record, please?
My name is Fabrice Figlioni. My business address is 4 Campus Boulevard, Newtown Square, PA 1907, right next to Melinda.
And can you tell the board who you're employed by and in what capacity?
I'm employed by Boiron. I've been here 15 years. I'm the vice president for finance, IT, supply chain, and HR.
And can you briefly describe Boiron for the board?
Boiron is an international company. We are the worldwide distributor, worldwide leader of homeopathic medicines. We distribute homeopathic medicines. We distribute homeopathic medicines in the US. You can find us in different locations: Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Whole Foods.
And the American corporate headquarters are located at 4 Campus Boulevard, correct? And is Boiron Inc. the owner of the property located at 4 Campus Boulevard?
Yes, it is.
And this is reflected in the deed that was submitted with the zoning hearing board application and is marked by the second flag in Exhibit A1. Is that correct?
Yes.
Has the amount of signage at the property created any hardships for Boiron?
Yes, and like Melinda, we have quite a few challenges to get people to the right location. They go to the school, deliveries go to the school as well. When we have people coming for interviews, they go to the wrong building. Just deliveries in general. Often I go pick up my boxes from the Talk School and she comes to us to pick up.
And this has happened despite the presence of a sign that actually says Boiron on the side of the facade, correct?
Correct, correct.
Is this because the sign that currently exists is not close to the entrance to the school?
That's probably one reason, and the fact that we are number 4 and we are in the back too.
And you've reviewed the proposed signage design, correct?
Yes.
And will the addition of these signs change the character of the neighborhood, in your opinion?
No.
Does the board have any additional questions for Mr. Figlioni? So I guess keeping this brief, since we are heading up to the end of the night, we respectfully request the board grant these requested variances to permit home school and Boiron to add proposed signage to their joint properties. As the witnesses described, a lack of signage is creating a hardship for these two businesses and the school in front. People are getting lost. There's issues with emergency vehicles, and the proposed signage is limited and has already been accepted by the condos. It's surprising that it's a cleaner design, it's updated, it looks nice and, you know, in line with the neighborhood. It's modern, it makes the property. So the additional signage was also actually envisioned when the school was proposed and approved in its conditional use approval process. They just didn't add this signage due to the zoning issues. So providing for appropriate signage is going to allow both properties to be clearly identified and should resolve issues that currently exist.
I'd like to move your exhibits into the record.
I would love to move the exhibits into the record. Thank you.
If I could, the township would actually, I'd like to recommend that if Boiron's willing, on the, what you would see where number 6 is, flipping to the other side of the building, if there's a place where a 4 could be seen on that side of the building as you're coming in, I think it would benefit for emergency purposes as well as delivery purposes, and we would not object to that additional 4 being added to the building.
You guys interested in adding that? Yeah. If you guys are okay with that, I agree. I drove around that spot and it's quite confusing.
All right. I mean, I honestly have no questions or concerns on this one, so I don't know if anyone else on the board does. You want to,
I'll make a motion to approve application Z 2022-14 as testified with the addition of approval for an additional number 4 to be added to the Boiron building for emergency purposes.
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That was Mr. Mancini's fault. So.
We got a Porsche.
I can use samples though. I bring samples. Steve knows.
I'm in meeting.
Okay.